As NBA fans, we love to compare guys that are playing in the league right now, guys that shared the same era, guys that played in completely different eras. But today we're going to compare guys that, at least partially played in the same era. Two of the best shooting guards of all time, Dwyane Wade and James Harden.
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussions over the past year between Wade and Harden. Harden's got the longevity, he's got an MVP. Wade, meanwhile, he's got the rings and he's got a finals MVP. So let's break it down.
Before we start talking about who is better, Wade or Harden, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on any new videos. So for a few years, there's been a discussion, who's the third best shooting guard of all time? Because essentially everyone, at least with a brain, agrees the two best are Mike and Kobe. But after that, the conversation becomes a bit more open. You might have some old heads saying Blazers legend Clyde Drexler.
Exactly.
Allen Iverson's up there. You got George Gervin, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen, and Vince Carter. But recently, it's become basically a two-person discussion between Dwyane Wade and James Harden.
Yeah, thanks Pat Bev for bringing this discussion back into the, the limelight
right.
And the, NBA Twitter and whatnot, just setting off a firestorm by just basically backing his former teammate.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, we're just so used to him saying some bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, anytime he says anything, there's gonna be a reaction. So we're gonna break down the careers of each player. Obviously, Harden's still active, so things could change down the road, but we'll break down at least his career thus far, all of Wade's career. We'll talk about accolades, the strengths, the weaknesses of each player, and at the end, give our pick for who's the third best shooting guard in NBA history.
But first, this video is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is America's #1 sports pick app and is the best place to play daily fantasy sports. It's super simple. All you do is pick a lineup of a couple of players and simply pick more or less on one of their stats. Last week we did all right, got 2 out of 3, but missed out because Anthony Edwards just wasn't himself against Philadelphia. In hindsight, probably not the best idea to pick the guy who was questionable before the game even started because he was sick apparently, and because he was just coming off missing a bunch of games with knee soreness. In hindsight, I probably should have just seen that one coming. Well, that won't get me again, and this time we're going with a lineup that you can basically just nickname Manifesting a Win Over the Nuggets. I mean, y'all have seen how tight the play-in race is. Come on, we need this win right here. Plus, I mean, Jokic just played, 44 minutes 2 days ago against Wemby, so I'm hoping he's, a step slow in the glass. Just a little tired tonight, So if you like building daily fantasy lineups, head to PrizePicks.com and use the code HMA or the link in the description for $50 in lineups when you play just $5, and only play if you are able to do it responsibly and have the means to do so. Once again, that's code HMA or use the link in the description. First off, we'll start with Wade. He was a part of the famous 2003 draft class that featured other legends like LeBron, Melo, Chris Bosh, and Darko Milicic, of course. Went 5th overall to Miami, and, nowadays Miami is considered, one of the best franchises in the NBA, which is impressive considering how young they are. But back then, they had only been around for 15 years, and yes, they had some success in the late 90s, early 2000s under Pat Riley, won 61 games, went to the conference finals in 97, had 3 other 50-plus win seasons led by Alonzo Mourning and Tim Hardaway, but by the 2003 season, they had won just 25 games. Hardaway was gone at that point. Zoe was nearing the end of his career and actually missed the entire 2003 season due to a kidney disease. And finally, Pat Riley stepped down as head coach with Stan Van Gundy taking his place. Immediately, though, Wade looked like a potential franchise player. I mean, he averaged a little over 16 points, 4.5 assists, and 4 rebounds his rookie year. Finished 3rd in Rookie of the Year voting behind Melo and LeBron. And even after starting the season just 5-15, the Heat, led by Wade, completely turned things around, went 37-25 the rest of the year, finished 42-40, got the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. I mean, that might make you the play-in tournament in the West this year. So, early 2000s Eastern Conference, very bad.
And weirdly enough, in the Eastern Conference first round, they were taking on the New Orleans Hornets. Now, that's because the Hornets had recently moved from Charlotte, so they were still in the East at the time. And Wade in his first ever playoffs was great. I mean, literally his first playoff game, he put up 21 points and had a game winner. Like, that's an insane playoff debut. Overall averages 15.5 points, 5.5 assists, and 4 rebounds in round 1 as the Heat took out the Hornets in 6 games. And in round 2, honestly, he played even better against a elite 2004 Pacers defense. He put up 21 points on 49% shooting. The Heat do fall in 6 games, but an incredible rookie season for Wade, and he quickly elevates himself into one of the best players in the NBA after that, and the Heat basically immediately became contenders again. Now, it definitely helped that they acquired Shaq in the summer of 04.
I would say so.
Wasn't just Wade there. Shaq was still one of the best players in the NBA, finished second in MVP voting in 2005, and erased a lot of people, including Shaq, think he should have won still to this day.
Well, of course Shaq thinks he should have won it.
Right. But Wade also, in year 2, became a 24 point per game scorer, averaged nearly 7 assists per game, and on top of that was already one of the best defenders in the league, finished second team All-NBA and second team All-Defense in his second season. The Heat win 59 games with the addition of Shaq, get the first seed, they sweep the Nets in round 1 and the Wizards in round 2, with Wade going off each series, especially that Wizards series. He averaged 31 points, but you fall to the Pistons in 7 games in the conference finals. Wade and Shaq were both okay that series against that stacked Pistons defense. But on to year 3 though, just incredible stuff from Wade. One of the best playoff runs you'll ever see, especially for a guy in his 3rd year. Once again, the regular season he was great, all-star, finished All-NBA second team, but in the playoffs he raised his game to another level, especially the finals, averaged an absurd nearly 35 points a night
in 2006.
Yes, almost 8 rebounds, and led the Heat to their first ever championship. I know Mavericks fans get pissed off about all the free throws he took.
And to be fair, if we were Mavericks fans, we'd be pissed too.
We'd still be pissed to this day.
But we're not Mavericks fans, so we're not pissed.
I just remember, this is the first finals I watched, and even then I could tell, like, this dude was balling out and he was something special.
I mean, you can make a strong argument that just winning this championship alone puts Wade above Harden.
Yeah, you could.
He did something Harden to this day still has never done. We'll see if he does it this year. Probably not, but we'll see. And for the next couple years, Wade remained among the best players in the NBA, but injuries to both him and Shaq really prevented Miami from getting back to contention. He played in exactly 51 games in both 2007 and 2008 as he was dealing with some shoulder and knee injuries. Still as great, was an all-star both seasons, but the Heat were swept by the Bulls in the first round of 2007 playoffs, and they missed the playoffs entirely, winning only 15 games in 2008. Honestly, looking back at that 2008 Heat team, I don't know how they were so because, like, I get, you know, Shaq was kind of on his last legs, but he would go on to have productive seasons in Phoenix, and Wade was still an all-star, and yet there's like a point during the season where they're like 1-40 over their last like 41 games or something like that. It's like, okay, you're worse than like the Pacers are this year, right? Or the Kings are this year, led by Zach LaVine, right?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really get it, but the next year, Wade responds, has arguably his best season, at least it was his best regular season of his career, averages over 30 points a night, wins the scoring title, 7.5 assists and 5 rebounds, finishes 3rd in MVP voting, and I know some people think he should have won it. I don't agree. I mean, you have LeBron.
I was gonna say, you're gonna pull it away from LeBron, who just led the Cavs to 66 wins with his second best player being Mo Williams.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think LeBron deserved it, but some people thought Wade should have had it. But the Heat once again were first round exits to the Hawks, as Wade basically had no help. And in 2010, I mean, he was still great. Made all NBA first team, but you're a first round exit again, this time to the Celtics. And after that, the Heat formed their super team. Wade, for the start of the Heatles era, remained one of the best players in the NBA. At moments, even looked like the first option on the team over LeBron, especially those first 2 years.
At 2011 finals, he is the only reason the Heat were in that series.
Yeah, was by far the best player for the Heat. And we talked about it even recently in our last video, that Game 6 performance in Indiana in the 2012 Eastern Conference semis completely took over that game. As we mentioned in our Heatles retrospective, the Heat win 2 titles, make the finals for 4 straight seasons, but at the second half of this run, Wade really started to show his age. I mean, he was still a really good player, was still an all-star, made his last All-NBA team in 2013, but I mean, he just didn't have the same burst, wasn't quite the same player, picked up injuries, and for a guy that really relied on his quickness, getting to the basket, you know, that hampered his game to an extent.
Yeah, injuries, you know, little minor injuries, especially like your knees and whatnot, and your ankles. That'll hurt the game of a guy nicknamed Flash.
Exactly. And after LeBron left to go back home to Cleveland 2014, you pair that with Chris Bosh having to retire due to blood clots. The Heat never got past the second round again with Wade.
I mean, they might have in 2016 if Kyle Lowry didn't hit like a half-court shot in, what was it, game 2, I think?
Yeah, to save the Raptors.
I've said it before. So pissed the Raptors won that series because we were going to get Wade versus LeBron in the conference finals. Would have been the only time in their careers they ever played against each other in the playoffs, and yet we had to watch the Raptors get curb stomped by the Cavs again. But after the 2016 season, he signs with the Bulls, has a solid season, averages a little over 18 points per game as the second option next to Jimmy Butler. Bulls were a first-round exit in round 1 after going up 2-0 on the Celtics in that series, lest we forget. But after that, he reunites with LeBron, this time in Cleveland, but at this point, he's basically, a bench guy. He's even traded back to Miami midway through that season, ends up finishing his career there over the next season and a half. So overall, the big case for Wade, I mean, the dude showed up in the playoffs. I mean, you can make an argument he actually, elevated his game in the playoffs, which is something that very few players actually do. Along with that, he was an elite two-way player in his prime, finished third in Defensive Player of the Year voting in 2009, had 3 all-defensive second-team appearances, is probably the best small guard shot blocker of all time. He's got a lot of really iconic blocks in his career.
Yeah, I think statistically he is the best, small guard blocker ever, by the numbers. Also the case for Wade, 3 titles.
Yeah.
Finals MVP.
Yeah.
That kind of goes with what you were saying about raising your game come playoff time, and it helped to play with Shaq. It helped to play with prime LeBron, Chris Bosh.
It did.
He had a lot going for him, but still, he came up big when it mattered. That 06 finals is so iconic. It's one of the best finals performances ever.
We got a video on it.
We got a complete video on it. If you want more details about it, I'll never forget that series. Like I said, first ever finals I watched, and he absolutely balled out.
I'll never remember that series because I didn't watch it live.
So that's the case for Wade. Now let's talk about Harden.
So first we'll acknowledge we got a couple videos that have already broken down Harden's career, so sorry for being repetitive, but be respectful of him, be fair in a debate setting. We're gonna give you a refresher. Harden's drafted 3rd overall by the Thunder in 2009. Pretty good class in its own right. Steph, Blake Griffin, Drew Holiday, DeMar DeRozan, Hasheem Thabeet, legends, all of them. And the year Harden arrived in Oklahoma City was the year they had their big breakout. Now that had a lot to do with Kevin Durant averaging 30 points a game and finishing 2nd in MVP voting as an 8 seed. But Harden did his thing. He averaged 10 points per game off the bench. Thunder ultimately lose to the Lakers in the first round, but played the defending champions to a tough 6-game series and kind of announced themselves as a future, contender this season. I think this was a team that everyone looked at and was just like, this team gonna be a problem in a year or two. Maybe even next year they're gonna be a problem.
And honestly, they were a problem. The next year won 55 games, Harden up to scoring to just over 12 points a night, and they made it all the way to the conference finals that year before falling to the Mavericks. And finally, in 2012, Harden has his breakout season. Went from a nice young player off the bench the previous 2 years to averaging almost 17 points a night, wins 6th Man of the Year. Looks like a future all-star and maybe even a guy with superstar potential. The Thunder would make it all the way to the finals. Coincidentally enough, they lose to Wade and the Heat in 5 games.
A series that Harden did not play very good in.
Yeah, he didn't. He was still super young, but 100% he did not play good that series. And then following that season, he shockingly traded to the Rockets. I've said it in past videos. I think probably the best thing that could have happened to him on an individual level. Sure, he could have won a ring or multiple rings with the Thunder, but goes from 6th Man of the Year to one of the best players in the league, and he was legit a superstar immediately for the Rockets. Had that incredible debut game. The playoffs remained an issue for Harden, though. He was okay in 2013, put against his former team, the Thunder, put up 26 points per game, but on under 40% shooting. Following off season, the Rockets add Dwight Howard, so Harden now has a co-star there in Houston. And he follows up a really good 2013 regular season with a fantastic 2014 regular season, finishes 5th in MVP voting, makes All-NBA first team, but once again in the playoffs, he wasn't really good. Puts up decent points, but shot under 38% against the Blazers. I know Wesley Matthews could shut people down,
He
but
could, not like
to that extent?
No, not like that. He had one good game that series, game 6, where he shot 60%, scored 34.
That's right. Yeah. Kept him in it.
Game 3, he had 37, I think, but it took him damn near 40 shots to get it. So, again, Wesley and Nick Batum, solid defenders for their era,
Right.
but against a guy guy like James Harden. Harden should be able to do a lot better than that.
The 2015 season, though, he once again elevated his game to another level, averages 27.5 points per game, 7 assists, nearly 6 rebounds, finishes second in MVP voting, only behind Steph. Remember, at the time, I thought he should have won it, but in hindsight, Steph definitely deserved it.
In hindsight, you are wrong.
I was 100% wrong. On top of that, he also had a much better playoffs this year, helped lead the Rockets all the way to the conference finals before falling to the eventual champion Warriors. In 2016, Harden was just as good, maybe even better, averaging 29 points per night and 7.5 assists, but Dwight, dealing with injuries, had started to decline, so the Rockets win just 41 games and were first round exits once again to the Warriors. But that offseason, they hire Mike D'Antoni to be their next head coach, and he was able to unlock Harden's passing ability to the point Harden led the league in assists the following season. I mean, he was a good facilitator the previous years, but to become one of the best passers in the NBA while also averaging 29 points again and leading the Rockets to 55 wins without having another all-star on the roster, it was super impressive.
Yeah, it was.
Once again, finishes second in MVP voting. And in the playoffs, I mean, in the first round, he was great. Against the Thunder, averaged 33 points a night, took OKC down in 5 games. But in round 2, you know, he was inconsistent to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, gets his shot stuffed by Manu Ginobili of all people in game 5, right? And then game 6, an all-time clunker at home.
Yeah.
Against a Spurs team without Kawhi Leonard, without the best perimeter defender they have, and one of their best offensive players at this point too, and you shoot 2 of 10, you lose by 39 points at home.
I think it was 2 of 11, actually.
Was it 2 of 11?
I think so.
That's even worse. Also not very... Again, how the do you lose to the Spurs by nearly 40 at home when they don't have their best player? I know the Spurs are good at adapting. They're good at playing without some of their key guys and whatnot. Very famously, there's that one game in Miami where they sat basically their entire starting lineup against the Heatles and nearly won. But you're at home. How you lose by 40? You can't lose by 15? You have to lose by 40? Rockets then add Chris Paul over the offseason to get Harden some more help, and this time Houston improves by 10 wins, going 65-17, best record in the league. Harden finally gets his MVP, averaging 30.5 points per game, a little under 9 assists per game, and 5.5 rebounds. Even though they added Chris Paul, you know, that was the big thing going into the season. It's just like, you know, how these guys gonna, you know, work together. There's only one basketball. They both need it. Harden thrived with CP3, though. He was still the only all-star in his team. A little weird that Chris Paul didn't make the all-star team this year. I mean, second best player on a team that won 65 games and can't make the all-star team? Okay. Maybe this was one of those years Dame got it because he was just bitching and moaning about how he's sick of missing all-star games.
Dame definitely deserved. I mean,
I'm sure he did. Yeah, I know he did.
I mean, it's like Steph, Clay, Dame, Russ, Harden. It's that time in the Western Conference.
Clay Thompson, too.
Yeah, I think I said Clay, but yeah, point still stands.
Yeah. In the playoffs, Houston beats both Minnesota and Utah with Harden playing pretty well in both series. And again, he was pretty good against the Warriors in the conference finals. And if Chris Paul doesn't get injured, I mean, they probably beat the Warriors. I tend to lean that direction.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean that direction, but, you know, this is our timeline. Don't have the time stone to go back and change things or the quantum realm to go back and change things. Right. Rockets fall in 7 games, and then in 2019, Harden has like probably the best NBA scoring season since like, you know, mid-2000s Kobe Bryant. Averages, 36 points a game. Third time in his career he finishes second in MVP voting. But the Rockets do regress down from 65 wins to 53 wins. Harden is once again solid in the playoffs, but the Warriors beat them for the 4th time in 5 seasons. CP3 is then off to Oklahoma City for Russ. Harden, once again, incredible numbers. Basically 34.5 points per game, 7.5 assists. All-NBA first team for the 6th time in his career. And then playoffs in the bubble, again, he's pretty good, but the Lakers, again, make short work of them in the 2nd round. So after all that, it's time to deploy the fat suit because he wants out of Houston. Goes to the Nets, is playing great basketball. You know, he's in MVP discussions in Brooklyn, but then there's the hamstring injury in the 2nd round of the playoffs. He was basically playing on one leg, and again, after that, he's on the move again after that.
Yep, goes to 76ers, and at this point, you know, the hamstring injury was still lingering, just wasn't one of the best players in the NBA anymore. He was still remained a very effective player, an all-star level player, but the problem is the playoff choking was still there. I mean, in 2022, he just wasn't good in the playoffs. Philly goes out in round 2 to the Heat, and then in 2023, he also wasn't very good. I mean, he had that series against the Celtics, one of the most hot and cold series you'll ever see.
He was bipolar in this series. It was weird.
It was crazy. He had some games where he balled out and then other games where he had complete stinkers. 76ers fall in 7 games. Then he goes to the Clippers where, to be fair, he remained a very good player even after approaching his mid-30s. I mean, particularly last year, averaged nearly 23 points a night, nearly 9 assists, makes an all-star team again for the first time since 2021, even finishes all-NBA third team at age 35, and this season he's continued to play really well, averaging just under 24 points a night and 8 assists. Obviously, he was traded to the Cavs before the deadline, so gives him a better chance to compete. Maybe he could possibly finally win that ring. The rumor is he's going to opt out of his player option this offseason, re-sign a 2-year deal with the Cavs. I think the biggest argument for Harden is the longevity. Like, the joke I've seen going around on NBA Twitter is, you know, Wade at age 36 was out here being traded for a second-round pick, while Harden at age 36 is arguably still like an all-star level player, and it feels like he's got some quality seasons still left in the tank. And besides that, Harden was just the better offensive player, especially that peak from 2015 to 2020. 3 straight scoring titles, had that insane 36 points per game season in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, during this era, he was one of the best offensive players of all time.
Exactly. Won MVP, finished second MVP 3 times during this stretch. I mean, the playoff choking is there. If you want to be nice, you can call it playoff inconsistency.
That's being generous, man.
But I will say, you know, as a guy that's defended Harden in the past, he ran into the greatest team in NBA history 4 times in a 5-year stretch. Like, he didn't play in the Eastern Conference, a weak East, for much of Wade's career. He played with some great players in his career, but if you just look at that prime era with the Rockets, like, he played with Chris Paul, an older Chris Paul. He played with Russ past his prime, and he played with Dwight slightly past his prime. He didn't play with fucking Shaq, who was still an MVP candidate, and he didn't play with LeBron, you know, in my opinion, the GOAT. So there are some things there. So that's Harden's career, the arguments for him. So let's compare each guy directly and finally give our picks for who was better.
So comparing each guy against each other one-on-one, I mean, we're starting on the offensive end. It's Harden. I mean, as great of an offensive player as Wade was, Harden is one of the best offensive players in the history of the NBA. I mean, you can make an argument he's the best scorer since like Kobe. You can argue it's like him and Kevin Durant really in like the last 10 years as just pure scorers, right? It's probably those two. He also became one of the best passers of all time. Again, Wade was great on the offensive end. You know, newer fans may not remember, you know, just how good he was on offense, especially when he was, you know, young in his prime. Yeah. That 2009 season, he was incredible. But, I mean, offensively, you got to give it to Harden. Conversely, on the defensive end, it's a crater between them. And it's Wade, and it's not even close. I mean, better on-ball perimeter defender, much better interior defender. Again, best shot-blocking guard of all time. Harden has gotten better on defense, and he's so smart. He's got great instincts for the game that he's always able to pick up, you know, a couple of steals here and there.
Right.
But if you weren't around for, like, you know, 2012 to 2015, like, you know, NBA basketball, there were, like, compilations on YouTube of Harden not even like being a bad defender, just not even playing defense. Like, guys would drive right at him and he would just like stand there and just very meekly like stick his arm out, and just guys would just go straight past him. There's a great one where there's a fast break. I can't remember who it's against, but like the other team's on a fast break and Harden literally stops, doesn't play defense, and yells at one of his teammates and lets the offensive player go right past him for a dunk, right? That's how bad it got for James Harden on defense early in his career.
Yeah, so Wade easily on defense wins it. Next, we're going to talk about clutch factor / playoff performances. Again, Wade wins big time here.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, you can make an argument Wade not only was great in the playoffs, but actually elevated his game come playoff time. I mean, that finals performance in 2006, as we said, one of the best finals performances of all time, had so many other countless big games in the playoffs, was extremely clutch, one of the clutchest players like I've seen play basketball.
One of the clutches of his generation for sure.
Absolutely. And Harden, on the other hand, did not elevate his game come playoff time. Oftentimes was much worse in the playoffs. And Harden, I wouldn't necessarily think of as like a clutch guy. Like, now to be fair, he's had some clutch moments.
Yeah, he's got some game winners. You know, the one against the Warriors is one of the best game winners of all time.
Yeah, one of my favorite of all time.
But realistically, if you asked NBA fans, like over the past 10 years, name the top 10 most clutch guys in the league, I don't think Harden makes the top 10.
No, I don't think so.
He might not even make the top 15. 15?
Yeah,
Maybe?
I don't know. He's around there. Like, he's definitely had a lot of game winners, a lot of clutch moments, but just not to the extent of Wade. So once again, Wade takes that one easily. And now accolades. I was struggling on this, but ultimately we had to give it to Wade. I mean, it's the rings.
Yeah.
He can whip out the rings on his finger.
You can, yeah.
And Harden's got the MVP, which matters a lot, but Wade's also got the finals MVP to counter that as well.
Wade's got 2 gold medals, too. I mean, Harden also does have more All-NBA first teams, 6 compared to Wade's 2. Wade, though, weirdly enough, has more All-Stars, even if you take out, his Mickey Mouse.
The Mickey Mouse one that I hate on.
Oh, I like it, honestly.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine that the NBA did that, but it also kind of ruins some of these all-time discussions. I don't want to say ruin, but it makes it like he's got 12 All-Star appearances.
It cheapens it a little bit.
Yeah.
But either way, again, if you take it out, he still has more than Harden.
True.
Has 3 all-defensive teams to Harden's zip.
Yeah.
Harden should have negative defensive teams if they were allowed to assign him. And of course, you mentioned, the rings. It's to Wade, and yeah, it's not close. It's 3-0. Final category we'll look at, longevity. Again, Harden wins this one in a landslide. Like you said, Wade was, honorary all-star with Dirk, last year of his career, basically, and Harden is still like an actual all-star. So, Harden's got the longevity pretty easily. All that being said, I'm a bit of a Harden hater, so some people might expect me to go, Wade in a landslide. I go Wade closer than I think people might expect.
Okay.
My problem with Harden is twofold. Number one, it's the playoff performances. Like, not only was he worse in the playoffs than he was in the regular season, that's a lot of players, right? A lot of players' numbers take slight dips in the playoffs.
I mean, Damian Lillard.
Dames do. Yeah, they do. But Harden, for the most part, was significantly worse in the playoffs.
Yes.
And if you think about James Harden's career, what's the best playoff moment of his career?
I mean, especially if you don't count the early Thunder era, off the top of my head, I mean, it's probably the game 1 against the Celtics.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great game. It's a great moment, but for that to be the best of your career
in a second round series that you lost.
Yeah, exactly. That holds him back in that sense. And the second thing that holds him back is I would be more willing to give this to Harden if he had an early career run or even a full career run like Dame did in Portland, or LeBron's first run in Cleveland, where it was just him for the most part by himself and he never really had any help and he was still doing all these incredible things, right? I mean, early in his career in Houston, he had Dwight. I know his back was starting to go a little bit, but for those first 2 seasons, Dwight was still the best center in the NBA, I would say. After that, they swap him out for Chris Paul, one of the best point guards in the world, and a guy that everyone kind of thought was done after he left Houston, and he led Oklahoma City to the playoffs and then had that amazing run with Phoenix, right? They swap him out. They bring in Russ, who, yes, he was a little bit past his best too, but he still averaged like 27 points, 7 boards,
Honestly,
8 assists.
He was really good.
He was great for them. And then he leaves, Houston, and then he goes to Brooklyn, and he's got Kevin Durant, and he's got Kyrie. He leaves them. He goes to Philly. Now he's got Embiid. He leaves them. He goes to the Clippers. He's got Kawhi and Paul George. Now he's in Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell. Like, he has a very long list of really, really good teammates. And I think when you have a list of players that you've played with that's that good, and you only have 2 conference finals appearances and no NBA finals appearances as the best player on your team, again, I know he ran into the Warriors and that's fair, but I feel like you should have done a little bit more with what you were given. Again, if you had LeBron supporting cast his first 7 years in Cleveland where it's you and nobody else,
right,
I'm much more lenient on you. But he had a lot of really good players throughout his career and a lot of good supporting casts and a lot of good coaches.
Yeah, I go Wade as well, just because of that early stint with the Heat, from whatever you want to say, 05 to 09, or you can even extend it maybe to 2011, 2012 at the very most. He was so good, and I think he was just as good as peak Harden, but his game also translated to the playoffs. I think 2006 finals alone kind of does it for Wade. And like I said earlier, you do got to factor in Wade did play with Shaq. Wasn't Lakers Shaq, but it was still a very good version of Shaq. Also, prime LeBron, best player in the world by far, LeBron.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. That's a pretty good teammate to have.
And I mostly agree that Harden had great teammates, especially later in his career, with the Nets, with the Embiid, with recently Kawhi, Paul George. I do kind of counter on that Rockets. I mean, Dwight was the best center in the league in the worst center era in NBA history. Like, who was second? F***ing DeAndre Jordan. Probably probably Marc Gasol, but
Yeah.
still. And even then, you could argue Marc Gasol might have been better around then. And then Chris Paul, like, again, Chris Paul didn't make an all-star team in 2018. Chris Paul was good, but Chris Paul was nowhere near a top 10 player at that point. Brody always puts up great numbers, but it's still Brody. It wasn't going to be a fit. And he ran into the best team of all time.
That's true.
For 4 seasons in 5 years. Like, that is just incredible bad luck. And he pushed them pretty damn hard, especially in 2018, even years like 2019. They played them tough. So that's the only thing I'd count with Harden. And the last thing I'll say with Harden, the story is not closed yet.
Oh my God.
If Harden can win a chip, if he somehow won a finals MVP, say he just turns back the clock, goes off for the Cavs.
Turns back the clock to what? He's never played well in the playoffs. What would turning back the clock mean for him?
Opens up the clock and, tinkers in there a little bit, whips out the screwdriver, makes a couple adjustments.
Hacks the clock.
Yes. If he did that, won a finals MVP, won a ring, I think this discussion gets a lot closer. And if he somehow did that, it, he's not going to. I'll put him above Wade.
If he does that, I'll also eat my own shirt.
Okay, so. I'm holding you to that. Everyone remember that in the comments. But for now, it's Wade. Harden's the 4th best shooting guard ever. But it's gotten closer over the years. But yeah, like I said, it's Dwyane Wade. So who do you guys think? Is it Dwyane Wade? Is it James Harden? Or is it someone else as the 3rd best shooting guard ever?
Is it Michael Redd?
Michael Redd? That's a crazy poll. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving a like. And here we're here. Check out some of the other content as well. And don't forget to subscribe to Synthetic Sports.